Jared had always been curious. Growing up in a small village at the edge of the mountains, he spent most of his days helping his family, but his mind often wandered to stories of hidden places and forgotten treasures. Among all the tales, the one he remembered most vividly was about the Sapphire Cave, a place said to shine with blue crystals so bright that they could light up the darkest night. Many villagers had dismissed it as a legend, but for Jared, it was more than a story. He believed it was real, and the thought of discovering it filled him with excitement he could hardly contain. One early morning, with the sun just beginning to peek over the mountain tops, Jared packed his bag with food, water, a map, and a small lantern. He wore sturdy boots, knowing the journey would not be easy. As he stepped outside his home, he felt the cool morning breeze against his face. The mountains loomed in the distance, their peaks hidden in mist. A thrill ran through him. Today, he would begin the adventure he had dreamed of for years. As he followed the winding path into the forest at the foot of the mountains, Jared's thoughts wandered. What would he find inside the cave? Would it be exactly like the stories filled with glowing crystals and sparkling waters? He shook his head with a smile. Only one way to find out. Hours into his trek, as he carefully navigated through thick trees and uneven ground, he heard a voice calling out. "Excuse me. Are you going toward the Sapphire Cave?" Startled, Jared turned and saw a young woman standing a few feet away. She had a small backpack and a notebook in her hand. Her hair was tied back neatly, and her eyes were bright with curiosity. Yes, I am," Jared replied cautiously. "Are you going there too?" "I am," she said with a friendly smile. "My name is Arya. I study crystals, and I've been looking for this cave for weeks. It's rare to find someone who knows about it." Jared felt a rush of relief. "I'm Jared. It's good to know I'm not alone. I've always wanted to see the cave for myself." Arya nodded, flipping open her notebook. "Then we should go together. It's safer that way, and two minds are better than one for exploring unknown places." They set off side by side, their pace steady. As they walked, they shared small stories Jared told her about his village and the mountains he grew up around, while Arya spoke of her studies and fascination with rare crystals. Even though they had only just met, there was an easy connection. Jared found himself laughing at her small jokes, and Arya seemed to enjoy his curiosity and quiet enthusiasm. The path grew steeper, and the trees became thicker. Jared led the way, pushing aside branches and stepping over roots, while Arya carefully made notes about the rocks and soil around them. The journey was challenging, but it was also beautiful. Sunlight filtered through the trees in golden beams, birds chirped in the distance, and the cool scent of the forest filled the air. Every so often, they paused to catch their breath, share a sip of water, or admire a particularly unusual flower or stone. By mid-afternoon, they reached a narrow cliffside path. The drop on one side was sharp, and the rocks were slippery from a recent rain. Jared extended his hand to Arya. "Be careful here," he said gently. "It's easy to slip." Arya took his hand and smiled. "Thank you. I appreciate it." For a moment, they walked in silence, their hands brushing lightly as they balanced carefully on the stones. Jared felt a strange warmth in that simple touch, and Arya glanced at him with a smile that made her eyes sparkle. Neither spoke, but the quiet connection between them grew stronger. Finally, as the sun began to lower in the sky, they reached a small plateau at the edge of the mountains. Before them, half hidden by trees and rocks, was the dark entrance of the Sapphire Cave. A chill ran through Jared, but it was not fear, it was excitement. The cave was real. And now, standing beside Arya, he felt a sense of shared adventure that made the moment even more special. Arya crouched to examine the ground. The path looks safe, but we should take lanterns inside. The stories say it glows, but it's better to be prepared. Jared nodded, pulling out his small lantern and checking its oil. Agreed. Let's see what wonders await us. As the two of them looked at the cave entrance, a soft breeze stirred around them. The air felt alive, almost as if the mountains themselves were welcoming them. Jared felt his heart beat faster, not just for the adventure ahead, but for the unexpected companionship of someone who shared his curiosity, his wonder, and perhaps, something more. With one last glance at each other, they stepped forward into the darkness, ready to discover the secrets of the Sapphire Cave together. The inside of the Sapphire Cave was cooler than the forest outside. A damp, earthy smell filled the air, and tiny droplets of water dripped from the rocky ceiling. Jared switched on his lantern, its soft glow casting shadows along the walls. He felt a thrill rush through him. This was what he had dreamed about for years. Beside him, Arya adjusted her backpack and studied the ground carefully, her notebook ready to record anything unusual. "This is amazing," Arya whispered, her eyes wide. "The rocks here, they are older than most I have studied. The colors are faint now, but I can tell there's something special about this cave." Jared smiled. "I can't believe I'm actually here. It's more beautiful than I imagined." They moved slowly, stepping carefully on uneven stones. The path narrowed in some places, and the two had to walk in single file. Jared led, using his lantern to light the way. Arya followed, occasionally kneeling to examine a strange crystal or jot a note. The glow from his lantern reflected in her eyes, making them shine even brighter. After a few minutes, they reached a small underground stream. Water trickled gently over smooth stones, creating a soft, calming sound. Jared knelt down and splashed his face with the cold water, while Arya filled her water bottle. "You always think ahead, don't you?" Jared said with a grin, watching her carefully pour the water without spilling a drop. Arya laughed softly. "I have to. One wrong step here, and it could be dangerous. We need to be careful." They continued along the stream, following the water deeper into the cave. As they walked, Jared and Arya began to share more about themselves. Jared spoke of his simple life in the village and how he had always longed for adventure beyond the mountains. Arya told him about her studies in geology, how she had traveled to different places to learn about rare crystals, and her dream of discovering something truly unique. Their conversation flowed easily, as if they had known each other for years. Sometimes they would pause to admire the rock formations, pointing out patterns and colors that looked like they belonged in a painting. Other times, they would laugh at their own clumsiness, tripping over small stones or brushing against hanging vines. As they went deeper, the light from the entrance faded, leaving only their lanterns to guide them. Jared noticed Arya shivering slightly from the cold, and he offered her his jacket. She hesitated, then accepted it with a thankful smile. "Thank you, Jared. You always know how to help." He smiled back. "We're a team, right? We have to look out for each other." A little further, they reached a narrow ledge overlooking a small underground lake. The water was still and dark, reflecting the faint glow of the crystals embedded in the walls. Jared leaned over the edge, mesmerized by the view. Arya stood beside him, taking careful notes and occasionally tracing the outlines of crystals with her fingers. "It's beautiful," Arya said softly. "I've never seen anything like it." Jared turned to her. "Neither have I. I think I'm glad I didn't go alone. Seeing this with you makes it even better. Arya looked at him, her expression gentle. I feel the same way. Exploring is exciting, but sharing it with someone who understands, it makes it special. They sat for a while on the ledge, their feet dangling above the lake. The quiet was peaceful, broken only by the distant drip of water. Neither spoke for some time, simply enjoying the calm and the company of each other. Jared realized that this adventure was more than just finding the sapphire cave, it was about the bond they were forming along the way. After resting, they continued deeper. The cave twisted and turned, and they had to squeeze through tight spaces. At one point, Jared reached back to help Arya through a narrow gap. Their hands brushed, and a warm feeling spread through both of them. It was brief and innocent, but it made their hearts beat faster. They smiled at each other, sharing a silent understanding that this journey was bringing them closer in more ways than one. By the time they reached a larger chamber, the cave opened up with high ceilings and walls sparkling faintly with minerals. They paused, letting their lanterns illuminate the space. Crystals of different shapes glimmered in shades of blue and green, creating a quiet, magical glow. This must be the heart of the cave, Arya whispered, awe in her voice. Jared nodded. It's incredible. I never imagined it would be like this. They stood side by side, taking in the beauty around them, feeling a mix of wonder and excitement. The Sapphire Cave was no longer just a story, it was real, and they were discovering it together. And in that shared moment, both Jared and Arya felt the first stirrings of something more than friendship, a connection that went beyond words, growing stronger with every step deeper into the cave. The larger chamber inside the Sapphire Cave was breathtaking. Crystals of all sizes jutted out from the walls and ceiling, catching the dim light from Jared and Arya's lanterns and scattering it in soft, shimmering patterns. The air smelled faintly of minerals and earth, and the quiet drip of water echoed like a gentle song. Both of them stopped for a moment, taking it all in. Look at this, Arya whispered, kneeling beside a cluster of crystals. She traced the smooth edges with her fingers, careful not to disturb them. These formations are rare. They have grown naturally for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Jared knelt beside her, leaning in closer to examine the crystals. They almost look alive, he said, amazed. It feels like they're glowing from inside, not just reflecting our light. Arya smiled. It's like the cave itself has a heartbeat. As they moved deeper into the chamber, Jared accidentally brushed his hand against one of the larger crystals. A soft, gentle glow spread along the surface, illuminating both their faces. Jared blinked in surprise, and Arya reached out to touch it too. As her fingers met the crystal, the light seemed to grow brighter, bathing them in a warm, blue glow. Jared's heart raced. The effect was beautiful, almost magical. He glanced at Arya, and for a moment, the cave seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, surrounded by light and wonder. Their hands brushed lightly, and they both felt a quiet thrill, innocent but powerful, as if the cave itself was encouraging their closeness. They explored together, carefully stepping around uneven rocks and small pools of water. Arya took notes, sketching the shapes and colors of the crystals, while Jared observed, fascinated by her attention to detail. Every so often, he would ask a question, and she would patiently explain what she knew. Jared found himself listening not just to her words, but to the way she spoke with passion and curiosity. Do you think anyone else has ever seen this place? Jared asked quietly, his eyes scanning the glowing walls. Maybe a few, a long time ago, Arya replied. But not like this. Most people wouldn't even know where to look. This cave is a secret, a hidden treasure. They moved toward a shallow pool at the center of the chamber. The water reflected the glow of the crystals, creating a perfect mirror of the sparkling walls above. Jared knelt at the edge, dipping his hand into the cool water. Arya followed, holding her notebook carefully to avoid getting it wet. "It's so clear," she said softly. "You can see right to the bottom." Jared smiled at her reflection in the water, and then at her. "I think the cave is even more amazing because I'm seeing it with you," he admitted, his voice quiet. Arya looked up, her cheeks slightly flushed from the cool air. "I was thinking the same thing," she said, her smile gentle. They sat beside the pool, letting the quiet and the soft glow surround them. Neither spoke for a few minutes, simply watching the crystals shimmer and listening to the distant dripping of water. It was peaceful, almost like the cave itself was giving them time to breathe and enjoy the moment. After a while, they began to explore again. They discovered small crystal tunnels branching off the main chamber. Jared led the way, careful with each step, while Arya followed, her eyes wide with excitement. The tunnels were narrow, and sometimes they had to squeeze through tight spaces. Each time their shoulders brushed, both felt a small jolt of energy, a connection growing stronger with each shared step. At one point, they reached a wall of crystal formation so smooth and polished that it reflected their faces perfectly. Jared reached out, pointing to a particular formation. "Look at this one. It's like a sculpture." Arya nodded, stepping closer. "It's beautiful. And it's untouched. No one has been here to change it. Just nature, growing over centuries." Their reflections shimmered in the crystal wall, and for a moment, they stood silently, admiring both the cave and each other. It was a quiet, magical connection, and understanding that this adventure was more than just exploration. It was a shared journey, a bond forming naturally in the glow of the sapphire cave. As they continued deeper, the cave seemed to respond to them. Tiny lights sparkled where they walked, shadows danced along the walls, and the air felt alive. Jared realized that this journey was not just about discovery, but about connection between the crystals, the cave, and most importantly, between him and Arya. By the time they paused to rest, Jared and Arya sat side by side on a smooth rock. Their hands rested near each other, almost touching. The cave glowed softly around them, and neither wanted to break the quiet magic of the moment. For both of them, it was clear, this adventure was just beginning, and the bond they were forming would guide them through whatever wonders or challenges lay ahead. Jared and Arya took a deep breath and moved further into the cave. The path narrowed again, and the wall seemed to close around them. Every step was careful, measured, but the excitement in their hearts kept them moving forward. The glow of the crystals seemed brighter here, guiding them like a gentle light in the darkness. "This must be the deeper part of the cave," Arya whispered, her voice echoing softly. "Look at how the crystals grow. They're larger, sharper, and more colorful than before." Jared nodded, stepping carefully over a small pool of water. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this. It feels alive, somehow." They walked quietly for a few moments, listening to the distant dripping of water and the soft hum of the cave. Then, Arya spotted a formation ahead that took her breath away. The crystals formed a natural archway, shining in brilliant shades of blue and purple. She stepped closer, reaching out to touch the smooth surface. "They're perfect," she said softly. "Nature created this without any help. It's amazing to see something so pure." Jared knelt beside her, examining the archway. It feels like we're the first people to see it up close. I can't imagine anyone else experiencing this moment the way we are. As they passed under the arch, the cave opened up into a vast chamber. The ceiling was high and dotted with crystals that reflected their lantern light in sparkling patterns. At the center, a shallow pool of water mirrored the glowing walls perfectly. Jared and Arya stopped at the edge, mesmerized by the sight. This is the heart of the cave," Jared said, his voice filled with awe. "It's more beautiful than I imagined." Arya knelt beside the pool, carefully tracing the outline of the crystals with her fingers. "And it's untouched. No one has been here to disturb it. It's a secret world, hidden from everyone else." They explored the chamber together, stepping carefully around crystal clusters and small puddles of water. Every so often, they paused to examine something unique: a crystal that curved like a spiral, a rock that shimmered with unusual colors, or a small underground stream that trickled quietly into the pool. At one point, Jared reached to help Arya step over a low rock. Their hands touched briefly, and both felt a small spark of excitement. It was innocent but powerful, a subtle reminder that their connection was growing stronger with every shared moment. After a while, they sat beside the pool to rest. The water reflected the glow of the crystals, casting soft light on their faces. Jared watched Arya's expression as she traced shapes in the water with her fingers. She looked calm, happy, and completely absorbed in the moment. "I'm glad I'm here with you," Jared said quietly. "Seeing this cave alone wouldn't feel the same." Arya smiled, looking at him. "I feel the same way. Exploring is exciting, but sharing it with someone who understands, it makes it special." Just as they were enjoying the quiet, a small tremor shook the cave. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a few loose rocks tumbled into the pool. Jared instinctively moved closer to Arya. "Are you okay?" he asked, steadying her. "Yes," she replied, her voice calm but her eyes wide. "That was close. We need to be careful." They carefully navigated around the unstable rocks, helping each other over tricky areas. Jared noticed how focused and brave Arya was, and he felt proud to be by her side. The tremor reminded them that even in a beautiful, magical place, they had to rely on each other to stay safe. After passing the unstable section, they returned to the center of the chamber. The water in the pool reflected their relief and the glow of the crystals above. Jared and Arya sat in silence for a few moments, feeling the bond between them grow stronger. They had faced a small challenge together, and it had only made their trust and admiration deeper. "This cave is full of surprises," Arya said, breaking the silence with a soft laugh. "I can't wait to see what else is hidden here." Jared smiled, feeling the excitement return. "And I can't wait to explore it with you. Together, we can handle anything." They spent the next few minutes examining the pool and the surrounding crystals, sharing observations and gentle jokes. The chamber felt alive, not just because of the crystals, but because of the shared adventure and growing connection between them. Each step deeper into the cave seemed to strengthen their bond, creating a sense of trust, admiration, and quiet affection. As they prepared to move on, Jared glanced at Arya and smiled. "Ready for the next part of the cave?" Arya nodded, adjusting her backpack. "Always. Let's see what wonders are waiting for us." Side by side, they walked deeper into the heart of the sapphire cave, feeling the magic of the crystals and the closeness between them guiding every step. Jared and Arya moved slowly through the glowing cave, their lanterns casting warm light on the sparkling walls. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The soft hum of the crystals and the distant drip of water created a calm, peaceful feeling. After the small tremor in the last chamber, they both appreciated the quiet. It gave them a chance to rest, reflect, and enjoy the moment together. Finally, they reached a small, hidden pool surrounded by crystals that shone in shades of soft blue and pale purple. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the glowing cave like a mirror. Jared sat on a smooth rock at the edge, dipping his hand gently into the cool water. Arya knelt beside him, careful not to disturb the delicate crystals surrounding the pool. "It's so calm here," Arya whispered. "It feels like the cave is taking a breath, just like us." Jared nodded. "It's peaceful, and beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. I'm glad we found this spot." For a few minutes, they simply sat, listening to the gentle sounds of the cave. Neither spoke, but their shared silence was comfortable. They felt connected, not because of words, but because of the quiet understanding growing between them. Every glance, every small smile, seemed to carry meaning without needing to be spoken aloud. Arya finally broke the silence. "Jared, can I ask you something?" "Of course," he replied, looking at her. "Why did you want to find this cave so badly?" she asked softly, her eyes searching his. Jared thought for a moment. "I think, it's not just the cave itself. I wanted to see something beautiful, something magical, and I wanted to experience it with someone who would understand it with me. That's why I'm glad you're here." Arya's lips curved into a small, gentle smile. "I understand. I feel the same way. Seeing this place alone would be amazing, but sharing it with someone makes it unforgettable." Jared looked at her, noticing the way her eyes reflected the soft blue glow of the crystals. For a moment, he felt a rush of emotion. He reached out, lightly brushing her hand as he gestured toward the pool. Arya didn't pull away, instead, she let her hand rest near his. The touch was simple, innocent, but it sent a warmth through both of them. They laughed softly, breaking the quiet tension, and Arya pointed toward a particularly bright crystal. "Look at that one. It's like it's glowing just for us." Jared leaned closer to examine it, and for a moment, the two of them leaned toward each other, their reflections mirrored in the pool's water. The glow of the crystal illuminated their faces, and they shared a silent moment of connection. It wasn't just about adventure anymore, it was about trust, admiration, and a bond that was slowly growing stronger. After a while, Jared picked up a small smooth stone and tossed it gently into the pool. Tiny ripples spread across the water, distorting their reflections. Arya laughed softly, watching the ripples dance across the surface. "Even the smallest things make a difference here," she said. "It's amazing how alive this place feels." Jared smiled. "Just like us, I guess. Every small step, every moment, brings us closer." Arya looked at him, her smile warm. "I think you're right. And I'm glad we're taking these steps together." They spent the next hour exploring the edges of the pool, carefully examining the crystals, pointing out unusual shapes, and making quiet observations. Jared shared stories from his village, and Arya talked about her travels and the interesting places she had studied. Their conversation flowed easily, full of curiosity, laughter, and a gentle understanding of each other's thoughts and feelings. As the glow from their lanterns reflected on the crystal walls, Jared realized that this moment was special. It wasn't just about the cave, the adventure, or the sparkling water, it was about the connection forming between him and Arya. Each shared smile, each gentle touch, and each word of understanding brought them closer together, creating a bond that felt strong, meaningful, and entirely new. Finally, they sat together at the edge of the pool, watching the reflections of the crystals dance across the water. Neither spoke, but the silence was full of comfort. The cave had given them more than beauty, it had given them a place to connect, to trust, and to enjoy the magic of being together. Jared glanced at Arya and smiled. "I think this cave is even more magical than I imagined," he said quietly. Arya looked back at him, her eyes shining. "Yes, and I think it's not just the crystals that make it magical. It's us, too." They both laughed softly, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the cave and everything to do with the bond they were building. And as they watched the gentle glow of the sapphire cave around them, Jared and Arya knew that this was only the beginning of their adventure together, side by side, discovering not only hidden wonders but also the magic of their growing connection. Jared and Arya stood at the edge of the crystal pool, the soft glow of the cave illuminating their faces. They had spent hours exploring the hidden chamber, discovering smaller tunnels and observing the sparkling formations around them. The cave felt alive, and their bond had grown quietly with each shared moment. But the adventure was far from over. "Shall we continue deeper?" Jared asked, adjusting his lantern. Arya nodded, tightening the straps of her backpack. "Yes. I want to see what else this cave has to offer." They moved carefully, stepping over uneven stones and avoiding loose rocks. The deeper they went, the narrower the passage became. Jared took the lead, his eyes scanning for any danger, while Arya followed closely, occasionally taking notes on the smaller crystal formations they passed. The glow from the crystals was dimmer here, making the shadows longer and the air feel cooler. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A small rockfall began near the ceiling, sending loose stones tumbling down the path ahead. Jared grabbed Arya's arm instinctively. "Watch out," he shouted. Arya's eyes widened, but she trusted Jared completely. She moved quickly, following his lead as he guided her around the falling rocks. Jared's heart pounded, but he stayed focused, making sure both of them avoided injury. They ducked under a low crystal formation and stepped over unstable stones, moving slowly but steadily. Once they reached a safer part of the cave, they paused, breathing heavily. Arya's cheeks were flushed, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. "That was close," she said, laughing softly despite the tension. Jared nodded, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. "Yes. But we handled it together. That's what matters." The tremor had shifted some of the rocks near a narrow ledge they needed to cross. Jared examined the path carefully. "We need to be extra careful here," he said. "One wrong step and it could be dangerous." Arya looked at the ledge, then back at Jared. "I trust you," she said quietly. Jared felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "We'll get through this together," he replied with a reassuring smile. They moved slowly across the ledge, Jared taking the lead and Arya following closely. Every step required balance and concentration. Jared reached back several times to steady Arya when she slipped slightly on the smooth stone. Their hands brushed each time, sending a quiet spark of energy between them, but they focused on the path ahead rather than their feelings. Once they safely crossed, they stopped to rest. Jared sat on a flat rock and Arya joined him, both of them catching their breath. The challenge had tested their focus, teamwork, and trust in each other. In the quiet moments afterward, they realized how much they had relied on one another not just for physical safety, but for emotional support as well. "You were amazing back there," Arya said, her eyes shining with admiration. "You stayed calm, even when the cave shook. I don't think I could have managed without you." Jared smiled, feeling proud but also humbled. "We managed it together. I couldn't have done it without you either. Your calmness and focus helped me stay steady. For a few minutes, they simply sat there, letting the cave's quiet magic surround them. The crystals reflected faint light onto their faces, and the gentle dripping of water created a soft rhythm that matched the steady beat of their hearts. It was more than just relief. They felt closer, their bond strengthened by facing danger together. After a while, they stood and continued deeper into the cave. The tremor had reminded them that this journey was unpredictable, but it also reinforced their trust in one another. Every step now felt more meaningful, every glance more intimate. Jared noticed how Arya moved with confidence, carefully observing the cave's formations while trusting him to guide the way. Arya noticed Jared's protective instincts, how he quietly ensured her safety without making her feel incapable. As they explored, they discovered a narrow tunnel leading to another small chamber. This room was filled with crystals that shimmered in soft shades of turquoise and silver. They paused to admire the beauty, their earlier challenge making the calm here feel even more special. Jared and Arya stood side by side, their shoulders brushing lightly. The cave was magical, but so was the growing connection between them. Every shared glance, every touch, every word of encouragement had built a quiet understanding and unspoken promise that they could face any challenge together, inside the cave and beyond. Arya smiled, breaking the silence. I think we're ready for whatever comes next. As long as we're together, we can handle anything. Jared returned her smile, feeling the truth in her words. Yes. Together. With renewed determination, they stepped further into the sapphire cave, their bond stronger than ever, ready to face the unknown wonders and challenges that awaited them. Jared and Arya stepped carefully through the last narrow passage of the cave. Their lanterns cast a warm, soft glow, but the sunlight from the cave's entrance began to filter in, promising the end of their underground journey. Both felt a mixture of relief and excitement. The adventure had been challenging, magical, and deeply personal. Most of all, it had brought them closer in ways neither had expected. As they emerged, the sunlight brightened the world around them. The mountains stretched wide, bathed in golden light, and the forest below looked alive with color. Jared paused for a moment, taking a deep breath of fresh air. The cool breeze brushed his face, carrying the scent of pine and earth. He turned to Arya, who was smiling softly, her hair catching the sunlight. We made it, he said, a mixture of awe and happiness in his voice. Arya nodded, her eyes bright. Yes, we really did. And the cave, it was everything I imagined and more. They walked together down the path leading from the cave, careful with each step on the rocky trail. Even though the danger of narrow ledges and loose stones was behind them, their hands occasionally brushed. Each touch reminded them of the trust and connection they had built in the darkness below. I can't stop thinking about how magical it was inside, Arya said, glancing around the mountains. The crystals, the pools, it felt like the cave was alive. And being there with you made it even more special. Jared smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. I was thinking the same thing. I didn't just discover the cave, I discovered how amazing it is to have someone to share it with. They reached a small clearing where the sunlight spilled onto wildflowers growing among the rocks. Jared stopped and turned to Arya, noticing how peaceful she looked in the golden light. He felt a strong urge to tell her how he truly felt, not just about the cave, but about her. Arya, he said quietly, this adventure, it's been more than I ever expected. I came here to see the cave, but I think I've found something even more incredible. You. Arya's eyes widened slightly, a soft smile spreading across her face. She reached out and lightly touched his hand. Jared. I feel the same. Being here with you, exploring, facing challenges together, it made me realize how much I enjoy having you by my side. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the connection between them clear and strong. There was no rush, no need for words beyond what they had shared. The adventure had taught them trust, patience, and the quiet joy of being together. And now, outside the cave, those feelings felt brighter than ever. They continued walking, their hands brushing more often until Jared finally took Arya's hand in his. She didn't pull away, instead, she held it firmly, smiling as they moved together down the mountain path. The sunlight glinted off her hair, and the colors of the forest seemed more vivid, reflecting the happiness they felt inside. Do you think we'll ever forget this adventure? Arya asked softly. Jared shook his head. No. Not just the cave, but every moment we shared helping each other, laughing, discovering, it's something we'll remember forever. Arya nodded. I hope we have more adventures like this. Jared smiled. We will. Together. As they reached the edge of the forest, the village came into view. Smoke rose gently from chimneys, and the sound of life drifted up from the streets. Jared felt a sense of comfort and belonging. He realized that, while the cave had been extraordinary, returning to the world above with Arya felt just as special. Their shared journey had created a bond that was stronger than any challenge or discovery. They paused at the edge of the path, looking back at the mountains. The entrance to the sapphire cave was barely visible now, hidden among the trees and rocks. It was a secret world, untouched and magical, and it would remain in their memories forever. Jared turned to Arya, smiling. We found the cave, but we also found something even more important. Arya returned the smile, her hand still in his. Yes. We found each other. They began walking toward the village together, side by side, sharing quiet laughter and soft conversation. Every step felt lighter, filled with the joy of having faced the unknown and come through it together. The adventure had ended, but their journey, their bond was only beginning. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light across the mountains and the village below, Jared and Arya walked forward, hearts full of excitement for the future. The Sapphire Cave had been magical, but it had also shown them the true power of trust, courage, and the quiet beauty of connection. And as they moved forward, they knew that whatever adventures awaited, they would face them together, stronger and closer than ever. The mountains whispered around them, the forest sang softly, and the glow of the hidden crystals seemed to follow them in memory. Jared and Arya had discovered more than the wonders of the cave. They had discovered the joy of shared adventure, trust, and a love that had grown quietly but strongly, like the crystals themselves, shining through every challenge, every step, and every moment of their journey.